Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Cindy, how did it go on Tuesday?
Good morning. I was so nervous. Oh gosh.
You did really, really well.
No surprise.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank
Nice.
you. I appreciate that, Jay.
You received five votes, 5-0. So you were approved, and that means a lot.
Yay, we don't have to call you acting commissioner anymore.
Also, for the record, this meeting is recording. So just want everyone to be noted of that.
Okay. Whew. Jay, just a quick question. Had you heard from everybody or Izzy, had you heard from everybody by the end of yesterday?
I have not received any indication that any commissioner plans on missing the meeting. I do know that Commissioner James will be 15 minutes late, and I believe Commissioner Pellegrini will also be about 15-20 minutes late.
I think I saw those. Okay, thank you.
And I did talk to Chief Diversity Officer Vita Jeffrey this morning. She does plan to join the meeting as
Okay,
planned.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Jay.
Morning,
Morning.
Izzy.
Morning.
Where is your office, Izzy? Where are you sitting now?
I'm on the 9th floor.
Okay.
Where Jay is.
Okay, got it.
That's my desk right behind her.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Oh, got it. Okay. Thank you. That's good. That's great. I was wandering around the building yesterday, trying to figure out where all the different pieces were.
Yeah, we move around a lot up here.
Morning,
Jen.
Jen. My clock shows officially 10 o'clock. I think it might be a good idea to wait a couple of minutes just to see who else comes on. Knowing that Jay had indicated a couple of our members are going to be late for prior commitments. I think I'd like a few more bodies in the virtual room before we formally address the agenda.
Morning, morning.
Good morning, Kenny. Good morning, Vita. Hey, Vita. Good morning. Jay, would you mind sending the password quickly to Commissioner Ahmad?
Yes,
Looks
ma'am.
like she's having the same challenge I had.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Oh.
Oh, Karen.
Yeah.
That House Bill 666 died in committee. It didn't go anywhere.
I read about that in the paper. A good thing, way controversial, but I think there were some really interesting folks who weighed in on that. So that was definitely positive. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. We have 3. Let's see if we can track a couple more. Good morning, Azra.
Good morning, Karen. Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good morning, Oswald.
Good
Yeah,
morning.
you
Good
all
morning.
survived the snowstorm last week?
Yeah.
Barely. Let me just send a couple of notes. Oh, there we go. Good morning, Shanette.
Good morning, everyone.
We have 4. Can we start with 4? We really need 5. We know 2 are coming in late. Let me see. Oh, okay.
Can
I think,
begin your meeting with less than a quorum, Madam Chair. You just can't vote on anything without a quorum.
okay, well, let's start. I think a couple are coming in. Good morning, it's 10:04. This is the February meeting of the St. Louis County Human Relations Commission. Let's start first with a congratulations out of business to Commissioner Cindy Johnson, who officially was approved by the Committee of the Whole this week. Congratulations. And no longer acting, no acting, just authenticity. Now we have 8 fully confirmed members and look forward to filling those vacancies as soon as we can. On the roll call, so formally, let me call Commissioner Ahmad,
Here.
Commissioner Hall,
Here, sorry about that.
sure, Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
and myself. I think we know 2 will be late, potentially 2 others will come on, and we will take note of their participation when that occurs. I'd like to introduce our consistent guests from the St. Louis County Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Acting Director Kenny Murdoch, and I just blanked on your, what's your formal title, Ms. Person?
Administrative assistant for.
administrative stalwart, stabilizer, and sharing of all things important informationally. Ms. Vita Person. Let me also recognize from the County Counselor's Office staffing us today, Counselor Jen Frank, and the Board and Commissions Liaison from the Office of the County Executive, Jay Nelson. And also from the Office of the County Executive in the batting cleanup, literally and helpfully on all things administrative as well, Izzy Merjewski. How do you like to pronounce it, Izzy?
Mierzejewski, but close.
Merjewski, superb. I appreciate that. Good learning for
I
this.
don't think Jay knows how to say it either, so it's okay.
Well, that's all right. We just keep practicing and then we'll get it down. Thanks for the tip. Let me also introduce our guest at this time, Ms. Vita Jeffrey. Vita is Chief Diversity Officer for St. Louis County. For those of you who don't know, Vita has been a stalwart particularly in the finance and banking and economic development world for quite a while. A founder of I think it's the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce, and very much engaged in economic development support of the minority community for a long time. I met her a while ago, and she reminded me of that, but when she was working as outreach in the Office of Community Engagement and Economic Development for Governor Jay Nixon, and now has responsibility within the county's Office of Procurement through her role as Chief Diversity Officer for the county's Minority and Women Business Enterprise program, which I'll ask her to share about today, because I just wanted y'all to have some sense of that. In addition, under the ordinance, there is an interesting group of folks that I was not familiar with, called the Business Advisory Council. As it turns out, the Human Relations Commission has a member appointed to the Business Advisory Council. Previously, our representative, for those of you who've been around a bit, was Janice Harris. And Janice, having left the commission, leaves that opening on the BAC. And so that's something I think we need to understand, sort of the admin dynamics around, and support however appropriate. Let me also recognize now, by way of additional roll call, Commissioner Fan. And good morning, and Commissioner Pellegrini. Good morning. So Vita, if I could throw the ball over to you to share for a few minutes and give the commissioners some background on your work in the office in general, that would be real helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you, Karen. And this is the first time you and I have been together in this setting. So I again want to congratulate you and absolutely all the new members to this very important commission. As Karen said, I am acting as the Chief Diversity Officer for St. Louis County, where my role primarily is policy for the MWBE office and making certain that we have everything in place that we need to make doing business with St. Louis County or on behalf of St. Louis County for women-owned or minority-owned businesses, there's a smooth path forward. Our ordinance clearly designates the Business Advisory Council and a small business program to be able to help the county executive team and the office establish how this program can be most effective. In the writing of the ordinance, it lays out for there to be 10 members for the Business Advisory Council, a member and first named was a member of the Human Relations Commission. Behind that, it's a member of MOCAN, a member of the National Association of Women in Construction, a member of the Associated General Contractors in Missouri, a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, a member of the St. Louis County Constructions, the Coalition of Black Trade Unions, the National NAACP, the Asian American Chamber, and last but certainly not least, the St. Louis Building and Commissions Trade Council. Someone from each of those entities would serve a staggered term, either of 2 years or 3 years. And 2 of those individuals would serve as a secretary and then as a head or commission over the programming. The purpose of the program, and those that sit on this council, we meet once a quarter. There are times in between where members of the council may call me for questions, or there might be something going on in the program that they're interested in learning more about or giving input to. For example, in 2021, we were fortunate enough to get our rules and regulations published so that outside businesses had a better understanding of what the best paths were forward and answering RFPs, and once they get responded and were awarded the contract, what the steps were that were necessary for them to complete the contract well and receive payment in regards of what the program calls for. So we've done things like that. We really just underwent a change that Councilman Tracus and Councilwoman Webb co-sponsored, that made changes to our ordinance, and we were able to walk through those changes and filter some of the verbiage through members of the BAC to make certain that the changes that were being made was not felt to be something that was going to create harm, create a disadvantage, or create too much of a barrier for businesses for minority and women-owned businesses to still engage with St. Louis County. And so we feel like that is something that worked really well. And on its completion, the bill was passed, and it was one of the opportunities where we were able to have great involvement by everyone. The tenets of the individuals who are to serve in this capacity are to help us evaluate the effectiveness of the MWBE program, to increase access to contracting opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, reviewing and advancing initiatives that impact MWBE participation, enhancing the notification process regarding prospective contract opportunities. I want to pause with that one. What we hope is that the members of the commission, if ever we have an RFP out, that they will help us shout these opportunities from the mountaintop. We are looking to always find more innovative ways to communicate with the public that St. Louis County is open for business, and that we want minority and women-owned participation in the work that is being contracted to be done. And so that the person that sits in this role will get notices, and then we'll ask you, if you know of organizations, please share it, help us get these messages out. Another tenet is reviewing staff program recommendations for effectiveness, impact on MWBEs, and then any other issues as deemed necessary by the Business Advisory Council. And so you'll find that we work in great partnership with the Director of Procurement. We work in great partnership with the Director of Administration, and we actively work in great partnership with all of the directors of the various programs and offices in St. Louis County, so that there can be a seamless flow of communication and business for the work that we're doing. Last thing that I will say, I think that many times I found that one of the biggest confusions that exist is when people are driving in and about St. Louis County and they see work being done, they think that all of those projects are county owned, and thus they think there should be an MWBE participation goal when they see buildings erected or things happening. And we help to educate the community to help them understand that each municipality is individual for its own private dollars. And so unfortunately, St. Louis County doesn't have a whole lot that it's responsible for. However, we can and we do work in good partnership with the mayors of the municipalities to encourage them to adopt the MWBE programming goals so that minority and women can be involved in those projects, even though they're not under our tenor of responsibility. So with that being said, I see your question. Miss Caroline, good to see you, Miss Caroline, too.
Commissioner Fan, thank you. Good to see you too.
Listener Fan, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Two questions. One, is the county going to reevaluate the minority and women business development quotas? I know that they had reevaluated that a few years ago. And then second question is, will these RFPs be translated into multiple languages, because it's very difficult to get the word out? And I will give you an example about the ARPA funds for small businesses, the loans or grants. I don't recall that those went out in multiple languages, and so therefore there is a disparity in who knows about it, much less who can even apply. And I will remind you that the county, about 1 in 11 county residents speaks a language other than English. I will also remind you that there are OCR provisions at the federal level.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Commissioner Fan, for those questions. I'm going to address the second one first. I will absolutely. So we've talked ad nauseum about how to make certain that communication across languages works best from the county. And we'd also talked about some of the programs that were used. I personally will make a recommendation to those in charge of the ARPA funding to get feedback from you as to what would be the best way for us to make that communication clear, because we want to make certain that nobody feels left out or heard in response to that. And if we can find something that is successful enough, then that will give us an opportunity to use it across departments. So I have made a note, and I will personally get back with you on that as I make that recommendation, so we can make sure that we're good with that piece. The first question that you asked spoke to a redoing of the quotas. Let me say, quotas actually are illegal. So there's no program that will legally allow us to address quotas when it comes to an MWBE programming. What we have are goals, and in those goals we have the way that the ordinance was written, even the way that the writing was just written. In those goals, we have baseline models, and we have an opportunity to allow those goals. For minorities, it's 24% as the baseline, and for women, it's 9.5%. We have the opportunity quite naturally to go above 24% or 9.5% in those instances when we have minorities that meet the next codes that are applicable to the particular contract, whether it's construction or A&E. What I mean by that is if we have a company that's registered that says that they are qualified and skilled, for example, to do painting, and we have an extraordinary amount of painters who are minority and or women, then the director of the MWBE office can increase that goal beyond the 24% to account for the number of individuals that we have in that space. However, that also means that there are some spaces where we don't have a lot of minorities or women. For example, if I always struggle to find an example, although there are plenty. NGA, for example, if there was something specific to aeronautics that we did not have minority or women-owned businesses who had the code showing that they specialized in these areas, it had been causing us to stall getting RFPs solved because we weren't able to find businesses who had those levels of expertise. So by all means, we want to make sure that the work is getting done. So in those cases, the director of the Minority and Women-Owned Business Office can relax that goal to meet whatever it is that whatever that number is, that we have professional people who can meet that goal. That is the way that the ordinance is written right now. Yeah. And so the onus upon us as an office and then on the BAC is to make certain whatever barriers exist that are keeping women or minority businesses from participating, we quickly eliminate them. But much to our frustration, we sometimes have RFPs that go out and we get 2 responses. So we are going on an all-out push. That's why I hear you completely with the language thing. If the language barrier is what's keeping people from participating, I have been actually talking to small businesses saying, what more can we do to help you so that you can know when the RFPs are out, you can be prepared, and you can respond, so that we can increase those opportunities. And we absolutely, for 2022, will continue to actively engage to do that.
Awesome. Quick question, just for everyone's edification. What are the current goals broken down by race and ethnicity? And then where is St. Louis County actually at compared to the goals? If you can just run down those numbers.
Absolutely, I can. So St. Louis County in its ordinance did not write out the goals in a specifically breaking down race and ethnicity, excuse me for stuttering. St. Louis City did do that when they did their last disparity study. The interesting thing is for 2022, St. Louis City and St. Louis County entered into the first time agreement, MOU, to do a joint disparity study for the region. And so once it is complete, we will then sit down, well, the team, I shouldn't say we because I'm not on that part, but the team will sit down and review what those recommendations are and then come up with those goals accordingly to that new study. We are completing, you should have in your hands this early next week, the 2021 report that shows for 2021, we finished at 24% minority participation and 30% female participation. I do not have the breakdown of what our goal attainment was according to ethnicity where that was concerned, but we will have the report that will give you all the details for that. And we have our public meeting coming up on Monday, February 28th, and a notice will go out for that so that you can make plans to please attend that as well.
Great. Last question, and I don't want to monopolize all the questions. Has the RFP for that joint city-county disparity study gone out? Have they selected a consultant? And will that person be conducting interviews of business owners in languages other than English?
So the RFP has gone out. There has not yet been an organization yet chosen as to which team is actually going to provide the work. I know that there were some specifics written into the RFP to make certain that we did a good job across the board. I don't want to speak to something I can't speak to completely in terms of did they spell out the language differences. I will check that with and get back to you and let you know. But I will say this, that is something that if it's not there, I'm certain that's an addendum that could be added.
Any
other
questions? Carolyn, I appreciate the questions, and Vita, appreciate the answers. I've been on the learning curve for the past few weeks, And I am incredibly impressed with the nuance involved and the complexity involved, not only in the technical pieces, but frankly in the human relations pieces of a successful MWBE program. But this program is operating under a new set of rules, and I think is staffed well to be able to grow and succeed. But that's why the BAC is important. And frankly, members of this commission also end up being important because, as Vita said, just spreading the word. The county wants to do business with people, and to the extent that you have contacts in your communities who can be a bridge, if there is, for instance, a language issue, to encouraging people to make the effort. It can sometimes be, I think, intimidating to look at all the rules and say, can we do all of this? And I think the goal of the staff seriously is to facilitate as much activity as possible.
I think Azra has a question in
Yeah,
the chat.
she did have a question that was actually
Yeah.
quite fitting to what it is that you were just mentioning, Commissioner Aristi.
Ah.
What's lacking.
Also, please refrain from using the chat box, as members of the public do not have access to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
The question is, how does the county announce or advertise RFPs? Vita, do you have some thinking on that?
I don't have the list of everywhere that it goes out. It goes out on our website. We do all the major newspapers. So I don't have the complete list of that. I'd have to get that.
And so Vita, what would be the appropriate next steps in terms of a member of this commission who would be interested? How do we proceed on that?
That's a great question, but that's actually a question for Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Go ahead.
So it would be upon the commissioners to decide which member would go. I would suggest maybe taking a vote on, like we do the nominations process when you're selecting a chair. At that point, you will want to write your letter of recommendation to the county executive for approval of the appointment.
Is that something that we wanted? Let me ask you guys, is that something that we want to do today or prepared to do today? Or would you prefer to have some more information, maybe talking with Ms. Jeffrey, any of the staff, before somebody wants to step up to take on that obligation?
More information would be good, so.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Let me ask then that, and mindful of the sunshine law requirements, that if you are interested in being nominated, that you write directly to Mr. Nelson, right? And then,
I would suggest they write directly to you as the chair.
okay, and then we will then I can Jen is okay. Then I can write back to everybody with who is nominated. I can share that information. Let's say when we send out the meeting notice for the March meeting, and then we can have a discussion then. Would that be following the rules enough?
I think you said that people who are interested can inform you,
Okay.
and then you would put that information on the agenda of the March meeting for the commissioners to take up voting on a recommendation to make to the county executive. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that would be fine.
Meanwhile, can I ask?
Your method of communication with the commission as a whole would be to provide that information in the March agenda.
Okay, and so can I ask people individually if they want to be in touch with Ms. Jeffrey, that they do so individually to ask some more pointed questions or get some more information about the schedule? Is that fair? Vita, you all right with that? Okay, and we can share contact information, or you can find her through the county executive's office. Okay, any other questions on that? Thank you so much. We have some, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for having me today and giving me a chance to speak to the commission, and thank all of you for serving. Absolutely. Thank you for serving. We don't take that part for granted. I do have to leave for another meeting, but I look forward to finding out the nominations and finding out who'll be joining us on the committee.
All right, thank you. Looking forward. Have a good weekend. Much appreciate you. Bye. Okay, Jay, and I apologize, as we heard from Ms. Jeffrey, we skipped over communications formally. Were there any formal communications that we needed to know?
Well, first we need to go back to item 2.1, approval of the minutes from the meeting.
Good point. You've been sent a link to a PDF of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from Friday, January 7, 2022?
I make a motion to approve, and I apologize for being late.
Jay, we can take note formally of Commissioner DeBeer, and so we appreciate your being here. Thanks so much. Hi.
Thank you.
Thanks for the motion. Any second?
I second.
Thank you, Azra. All approve. All ayes.
Aye.
Any nays? No abstentions. Hearing nothing. The minutes for January 7 are approved. Thanks for that, Jay. Moving, and so no communications formally that were noted on the agenda. So I will move to updating us from the county equity plan. Mr. Murdoch.
Sure. Thank you for your time today, commissioners. We have 3 public meetings left in the Building Equity Plan series. This Wednesday, February 23rd is Building Equity in the Community. And after that, we have the March 30th, a welcoming plan as equity in action, and April 27th, St. Louis County as a change agent. These so far, the last meeting was virtual, and this next meeting on February 23rd will have to be virtual also. The meetings after that will kind of play by ear depending upon how COVID's doing or whether or not the county's open or whether or not the protocol seems safe. We'll decide that as we go. With that in, though, the other thing we'll have to do is in April, we'll do the writing camp thing. I would probably have to send something to get approval of how we write it, because we have to write up the plan kind of in a way that complies with sunshine law and everything like that. So I'll get some notes probably from the leadership team or legal to see how we comply that way. But other than that, please, if you have anyone that you want us to get in contact with for the equity plan, they can either come to the meetings, contact my office so they can be a panelist speaker, or they can send a 5-minute video to the equity plan at St. Louis County mo.gov, and that will be processed in that way. Any questions from the commissioners?
No, I just wanted
No, go ahead, Caroline. Sorry.
I just wanted to thank you for being flexible in the ways that our county residents can communicate with the commission and making as many opportunities available for folks. And then I also want to say I was very moved by the last equity meeting that I was on and learned a lot. And I think that, you know, hearing from fellow county residents, I think folks, you know, came in kind of skeptical about certain things, and there were a lot of concerns, not, you know, with our commission, but about housing and banking inequality and healthcare inequalities. And, you know, I really did learn a lot, and I think that this is why we serve on commissions, is to hear from fellow residents and to try to improve our government and make it be, you know, the best thing that it can be.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm glad you enjoyed the experience, and hopefully the next one too, we can open up some of the conversations on different inequities in the community and really drill down on what areas of our community aren't getting the same services.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's all I have right now. Thank you all.
Okay, thanks. Any questions beyond the equity for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion?
Not so much a question, but a statement just for Mr. Murdoch. As you just mentioned, the last thing you said was referencing making sure that you look at the inequities that exist within the community. I know that we are in some trying times as far as the pandemic and a lot of the rules that have been placed on whether they be county government or county residents or businesses, you know, whatever. However, what I would like to add is that we have to make sure that we're very intentional when trying to include everybody. And so it is oftentimes difficult for some people. It past has proven it's been difficult for us to get on to log on to meetings sometimes with the commissioners. And so with that being said, that probably means that it's even more difficult for the average person who doesn't even know about this commission. It's difficult for them to see the agenda postings of when the meetings actually are. It may be difficult for them to log on to the meetings. It may be difficult for them to navigate WebEx, whatever the platform may be. And so I think it is extremely important that if you are looking to explore the inequities of the different people from the communities, then you're going to have to go into the community. And so I don't mean with just having something at council, but those closest to the plane got to be closest to the power. And so you're going to have to talk to the people that's going to be most infected. If this means going into Castle Point and knocking on doors, if this means going down to Lee May Ferry and what sometimes people call Lower Lee May and knocking on doors, or going to the high schools down there or whatever, you have to be very intentional, because what will happen is we will have, and I would imagine it's not your intent to have a diluted report once you're done, but you'll have a very diluted report because you're not able to speak up from the people that are most marginalized in St. Louis County. We know that this is one of the most diverse counties in Missouri. And so we have to make sure that they are all represented, and with them being represented, we got to talk to them first. So you got to meet them where they are. And sometimes that's at their door.
I agree wholeheartedly, Councilwoman. And the digital divide is real, and it is a symptom of inequity that some people don't have technical access. And any options that we can come up with to help us touch those, just the email equity plan is one option, but I'm very much open to more options. And if you want to work with our office to schedule more meetings at high schools and stuff like that, I'd be more than happy to do that with you. But I agree wholeheartedly. There are some communities, especially able communities, like Paraquat. We need to go to them and talk to them directly.
If I can make a suggestion, right? And Kenny, I think that your volume is a little bit down. Um, I like Commissioner Hall's idea of going into the community now that the COVID rates are starting to come down. I also think, one of the things I was reflecting on from our last equity hearing is that I feel very fortunate to serve on this commission because I feel like we can model what we want government to be, right? And I think that one of the things I have also been reflecting on in this whole redistricting process is how folks who don't speak English, right, don't have necessarily the ability to testify or don't feel comfortable. And I agree with Commissioner Hall, like WebEx is confusing to me sometimes. And um, so I think maybe if we can, and I know this is extra work, but I think, if we're going to put together a plan, we should really try to get as much input as possible within, safe public health parameters. Maybe if we can have an in-person, one in North County, one in West, one in Mid, and one in South. And also put this notice out in multiple languages and encourage people, even if they can't um, come in person to testify, they can send in a video in Vietnamese, in Korean, in Creole, in Bosnian, because I think, right, if we don't put out that we have this information in multiple languages, right, then people won't know about these meetings. Um, and I think if, like, it's not that there aren't issues that county residents, like, that these issues don't exist. It's that I think that folks don't know that they can, one, where to go to talk about them, and then two, like, they don't know that there would be people who would be receptive to hearing this, even if it's not in English, right? Um, and so, yeah, those are just some thoughts, and I want to thank everyone here for um, serving alongside. And I think maybe if we can put some of this, I don't know if we put it into the ethnic newspapers as well as the online. But I also think separately that it would be great to get some time with the CTO to talk through equity on the website and just accessibility. Thanks.
Jay, and then X.
Yeah,
If I
first
may.
of all, I know it's a public meeting. I apologize for Murphy. My wife's on a conference call upstairs, so I've got the dog. But
Always dogs welcome. Inclusion there for real.
okay, all right. I'm wondering if maybe is there a way to maybe involve the International Center? My wife and I worked with some of the Afghan refugees, like a family of 11, and that's like real time, hitting the streets. What do they need? So just an idea.
We have contacted the International Institute. They're very interested in working with us as the welcoming plan
Cool.
in equity on the March 30th meeting. And that's also the meeting we want to concentrate the most on. St. Louis County needs to come up with a formal language inclusion plan. And that's what we want to push at that meeting. And we're going to have the International Institute come to that meeting. So if you have a contact there that you want to give us specifically to invite, please send me an email or send the chairwoman an email to give to me, and I will make a effort to invite that specific person from the International Institute.
Yeah, I can look. We're an adoptee like sponsor, so we're kind of in the field. But thanks for that good work, Kenny. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, so following Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Fan, and also, what I was just going to bring up International Institute of St. Louis. So they are obviously the hub for providing immigrant services, and they're the information hub for that. So if it's possible, maybe we could have an in-person meeting at the International Institute, because that way we can actually be there, and those people frequently commute to International Institute to receive the services that they receive from them.
Right.
It would be just wonderful to be there in person and talk to them in person. And I do have contacts at the International Institute. I do work with them.
Oh, please pass some of those contacts on. I would like to contact them this coming week if possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Azra.
Okay, so I had another idea. So the public library is a very underutilized place. So we talk about the digital divide, right? So people who don't have access to computers or, technology, they go to the library. So I think the library is an excellent place where we can make announcements. It is used by people from all walks of life, and people go there who don't have computers just to use the computer to find a job. So I think we should maybe advertise our meetings in the library, and maybe we could use it as a venue. It would be it would be during hours. We could use it as a venue where people could log on and participate.
Is just following up Commissioner Ahmad's comment, is there a formal PR plan being thought about for the report, or is that something that would come later that could also take into consideration language access and the digital divide as well?
A little bit later, what communication is done out of the executive office is we're building a communication plan internally for all departments, and we're having those meetings this coming week about communication plan. So part of the DEI's communication plan is what will spill over into how we can communicate with the outside world, and how we can get more into local newspaper, micro newspapers, even to the part to local vlogs or podcasts to make real awareness. But it's a step-by-step plan, and we kind of take the leadership from communications because that's their expertise.
Would it be fair to say it's slightly concerning that talks about communications are being had now when you said you have 2 meetings left?
Yeah, we had to go with the speed of the communication team, as they're the ones setting, Doug Moore and them are setting what the communication tone is for all departments. So
with that being said, how is it that with all of the past meetings that we've had, the ones about equity in government or equity in education or what have you, how is it that now we can know that we would have a decent synopsis from where the inequities exist within those areas if we're just now talking about communications and PR and there are 2 meetings left that you're using to draft this equity plan?
Oh, communications have always been taking place. So we've had communication with with different organizations. For instance, like we were just talking about the International Institute. We've had several meetings with Blake from the International Institute and trying to bring in language corporations, stuff like that. So we have that now. But when you talk about a formal written communication plan, that's something a little bit different, and that's something we're making internally inside. Communications is working with each department to make formal communication plan. Now, what we have done in the past was broadcast communication on websites, tell different focus groups. I've gone to different, like meeting with Evolve and different community groups and tell them about the equity plan. Please come in. Done as much word of mouth. But that's kind of us doing that without the written out formal communication plan. And that's where we're headed now, to a new written out formal communication plan.
I think to maybe what Commissioner Hall is getting at is right, like the and based upon the equity meetings that I've been able to attend, you know, the comments that we have are so thoughtful and really good content and ideas, and I've always learned, but it's not like a ton of people. And it, you know, maybe there aren't a ton of people who want to weigh in, but um, you know, and it's hard because there's a bureaucracy and a hierarchy and a structure, but you know, I do understand where she's coming from. Like, are we hearing from everyone about all these issues? Um, and how do we make sure that we're really reaching people? And I think my question is there anyone on the communications team who speaks multiple languages and who thinks about that element of communications, right? So like I can tell you from my work in voter outreach and overall, you know, in social media alone, there's Viber, there's WeChat, there's Line, there's Kakao, which I'm betting many of you have never heard of any of these apps, but a lot of people use them. And that's separate from like print ethnic media like Scan or the St. Louis American. Um, I, I, I I just, you know, I do communications work. That's what I do. And I understand wanting to wait for the overarching plan, but also like is there a way to push this up the urgency ladder? Because we've all been in this process for over a year, and we want to make sure that we really hear from everyone and that we have a really good product so that the rollout is not just the rollout once we have a plan from whomever's testified, but that it's been throughout. Commissioner Hall, tell me if I've captured that.
I'm not, Commissioner Hall, are you still available? She may, Commissioner, let me just take note, Commissioner James has joined us. Good morning. Thank you for joining. I guess Commissioner Hall may have had some difficulty. Maybe she'll call back in. Commissioner DeBeer, Jay.
Yeah, just to follow up with Commissioner Fan, I know in healthcare, for example, we just have to call and we can get a translator. For example, the Afghan dad that we brought to the urgent care SSM behavioral health urgent care, and they speak Pashto, which you can't even get a Google Translate on. But he was able to get care. So I don't know if there's a way. It would be really, really important, I think, to have some of these people that have been here 6 months to a year to really tell us about their experience.
I agree, and I'm going to echo both what Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Fan have said. The challenge of the government system makes it a little bit more challenging, so that if you need to bring people in from even from an informal contracting space, even a volunteer space, there are steps to follow and boxes to check and ordinances to be aware of and all the other bits and pieces. So it's not quite as fluid as it might be in a non-governmental space. And that's just the reality of that particular animal. So, but I think the comments have been noted carefully, and we will make sure that accessibility in all forms, language, inclusion and otherwise are high on the list when we get ready to put this thing out. I'll just say for my own part, there's no, and this is not meant in any way to criticize the effort. It's probably going to be heard that way, but that's not my intent. This is a monster project, right? The reality is talking about equity in this kind of setting for an institution like St. Louis County with all the different moving parts and people that it has couldn't be satisfactorily shared in 10 pages, 15 pages, 1,500 pages, 1,000 pages. There's no end to the capacity for what needs to be addressed in it, how flexible it needs to be, how much of a living, breathing document I see that it needs to be. And I think the question is, how can we most effectively help Mr. Murdoch and his colleagues in how we figure out what it looks like so that it can, in fact, be as all-encompassing as people are going to want it to be. I don't know the answer to that, but I would just put it out there for thinking, because then perhaps the innovation and how it does go out to the community as broadly and as thoughtfully as possible is something that we
And
need
I
to
would like
think
to
about.
remind all the commissioners that the work we did, most of it is on YouTube as far as the meeting. So if anyone wants to go back and look at some of those YouTube meetings and refresh themselves, I would prefer if each one of the commissioners looks at the meetings and just comes away with a few points from those meetings that they say, I need this point definitely in the equity plan. Like language arts must be improved throughout St. Louis County. That has to be in the equity plan. So pushing stuff like that. I need to know from you what you see also, because I'm one set of eyes. What you see from those meetings, and when you say this needs to be an equity plan, because that will help us start to write it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other thoughts before we close on this?
Well, also mention there was a great bring up by Director Murdoch. We have moved towards adding all of our public meetings to YouTube, and it does include the Human Relations Commission.
Okay.
I'm just going to go back to Commissioner Ahmed's idea about libraries. I mean, I'd be down to go in person and try to bridge some of this digital divide and have a meeting in person, now that cases are coming down at a library. And I think the idea about going to the International Institute is a good idea, but also there are folks who don't have transportation to get
Yeah.
into the city, right?
Right.
So I think that's something else we have to consider.
Yeah. I think the Mid-County Library also itself has a pretty large education outreach. Yeah, Ms. Person.
Yes, I was just wondering what the HRC Commission is doing to help us to reach all the different groups that need to be made aware of what we're trying to do since we're collaborating.
Does anybody want to answer that? I mean, my hope would be that when we have this draft, not even a full report, but a draft, that we start letting people know about it. And it's very hard to do something by committee. I'm learning that pretty quickly, but that we can share with folks and get input. And those can be in individual settings or they can be in good big group. But these folks have a big outreach network, I know, each of them, to start pulling people together. And in that way, my hope would be a grassroots approach to learning things that make a lot of sense, that get supported, or things that get called out as, wow, that is so not good. That needs to be, dealt with in a different way.
I have a question. I know that we have also timeline and deadlines. Is it possible maybe not to put out a public draft, but like kind of public, like a 1-sheet, 2-sheet bullet points that we want to address maybe, and then put that out to the public, see what commentary they have, see if, and I'm sure there are things that we are missing, right? And then, use that to also generate more testimony and, to inform the final draft.
I like that idea. And I think it is possible to put out like a one-page teaser, put it out in the community, ask people to respond and send some more emails in and use that actually as a way to get more community involvement. Let me look at some ways to draft that up and get back with the commission.
Yeah, and then that way
that's a good
they'll
idea.
push the comms folks to really come up with some kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much. Item 5.2, the Human Relations Commission draft report, which is due March 1. Y'all have received a copy of it. I believe Jay has the official draft. Go ahead, Jay.
Yes, I would add that I'm moving forward from this this week and forward. I'm going to be putting a lot of time into the report that's due on the 1st. So again, I would like to extend to any of you if there are different agenda items that from throughout the years that you think are important and should be added to the report. Please send that information to the chairwoman so that we can get that, so that we can have that added. The intent is to have a draft, final draft circulated for the next meeting so that we can have this report filed in a timely manner.
Yeah, and March 1 is our deadline, but we'll throw ourselves on the mercy of the 9th floor for the March 11 meeting, and unless we really have to, well, let me ask you that, Jay, because we have the next meeting noticed up for March 4, that there is a conflict with one of the cabinet meetings. But if you think it's important to continue having the meeting for March 4 and then go beyond that, happy to take your advice on that.
I would also suggest that it's within the bylaws of the commission to call a special meeting. And we could take the matter up at that point as well, before the deadline, to not conflict.
Can we call a special meeting and have the comms director come so that they can hear from us, and we can also hash out some of the broader communications issues with government communications?
I would most certainly reach out to him. Yeah, I would reach out to him.
Can I ask y'all to look at your calendars, Jay? Would it be fair to schedule a special meeting for, let's say, 9 until whenever? It doesn't have to be a long meeting. Certainly doesn't have to be an hour if we can be efficient about it. On the morning of Friday, the February 25, that would give us 2 weeks from today. Is that fair?
I think that's a good enough amount of time, but it's completely up to the commission.
Anybody kind of want to weigh in? Would you commit so that we could have a quorum for the 25th?
I have a conflict.
I can do it.
I got 2.
I can
Yeah,
do
I
it.
can't make it.
I have a standing 9 a.m. on Fridays, but could do 9:30.
Okay, 9:30. And then we just need a quorum, but if folks who really want to have something, noted specifically, make sure you email me and I'll make sure it gets in so that the larger group looks at it. On the 25th, okay, can we notice up a special meeting then for Friday, February 25 at 9:30?
Jay, do you mind getting the invitation out?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And this will be the only item on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Thank you all. Are there any folks for public comment? I know we
do not currently have any one live on the meeting in attendance, and we did not receive any emails for
any
public.
requests. Okay. Is there anything anybody needs to make sure? Well, okay, to please raise relative to issues that the commission has before we move to adjourn? February 25th.
If we have a newer, sorry, you go first.
Oh, so I was just going to make a bit of a statement and a follow-up to earlier email today. So I did want to make sure I had a couple thoughts or a couple statements that I had relative to concerns of this commission and how it is functioning. I had previously written it down on an email and sent it out to everybody, but to make sure that we are in line, as Genevieve said earlier, with not violating such as our request, I think what I will do, and Genevieve, you can let me know if this is appropriate, or even Jay as well, is draft it up in a letter of my own, but just to be submitted to the commission as well, documenting those, because I think they're very important and they're things that should be said. And I know we're running at our hour right now, but I think it's very important that we talk about, or at least I voice the concerns that I have going from 2021 into 2022 about some things, and make sure we're all on the same page, especially since we have some new commissioners here, thankfully. So is that appropriate, Genevieve? I know that was like a bit of a long question, but is it appropriate if I can submit it then, and or if on the next meeting or during a special meeting, if you need me to actually read it aloud, the email during the meeting? I just don't know which one would be most appropriate, but I think it's very important to say such things, though.
I'm not sure I completely followed what your question was.
So I had sent an email out in reference to, or about a statement that I had in reference to some concerns on the commission, and I sent it out via email to the commissioners. You then that, hey, make sure that we're not violating sunshine laws, that we can't have comments or different type of conversations via email, that they must be had during the commission. This particular time, I do realize that we are running on the hour, and our hours are typically how long we have a meeting for. So is it appropriate for me to would you like for me to state these things during the next meeting that we have? Or is it appropriate for me to just draft a letter as a whole to just be submitted to the commission to be read during the next meeting? How do you want me to handle that?
Well, we generally don't give legal advice in open meeting. So if you have a legal question, we can take it up outside of the open meeting.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was a legal question. You had told me to make sure you referenced making sure you're saying that mine
Yeah,
was
I prefer
sunshine
you
law.
did discuss
So now
legal advice in an open meeting, and if that's okay, and we can take up a question outside of the open meeting, because I'm not sure I completely understand your question, and I would prefer to completely understand your question before I would provide any legal advice, especially in an open meeting.
Well, why don't we do this? Why not put Vice Chair Hall's concerns on the March, whatever let's call it March 4 for now, the March 4 agenda, formally related to one or both of the emails that were sent. And then if we take note, do we take note now of the emails that were sent? I know I received one, but not two. I think there was one that was sent to my old address that didn't get to me until later. So happy to take note of those emails, and then we can have that discussion on March 4, and then just put it on the agenda. Is that okay, Vice Chair Hall?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Happy to discuss.
For new business, I just wanted to say that Lynn Jackson, who runs the Dred Scott Foundation and is the direct descendant of Dred Scott, she's hosting a arts exhibit by high school students in the St. Louis region at their new office. The arts exhibit includes visual and written art and is about gun violence in this region. And so I'll send the email around, but I think on the 21st, we're gonna, do a thing where we bring students and intergenerational and multicultural folks over there to take a look at it and also to hear from her. And so I want to also wish folks in that vein a happy Black History Month, and it is still Lunar New Year, so Lunar New Year goes for 2 weeks. And so, that'll be between 1 and 4 at the Chesterfield Mall.
On which date? Say that again.
21st, which is President's Day.
And so maybe because of the my new respect for sunshine law rules and emails that go to all of us, maybe could I ask you to send, like, if there's a poster or an attachment to Mr. Murdoch?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that he can lift it up through his office. Is that fair, Kenny? And then we'll get the information out that way and maybe lift it up through the county. And I do think there is an ongoing communications conversation about how really to get this stuff out in the most effective way possible at the right time. And it has its challenges, but it is being discussed seriously. Hearing nothing else on new or old business, very much want to appreciate the conversation this morning. Thank you again. Thanks to Ms. Jeffrey and her information about the MWBE program. Look forward to being able to share more about that in the Business Advisory Council. It is 11:06. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Okay.
Thank you. Hearing no objections to adjourning. I wish you all a very good and restful weekend and look forward to talking again soon.
Who seconded the motion? I'm sorry.
Well, Cindy,
Commissioner Johnson.
Cindy Johnson, Commissioner Johnson.
Okay.
And for those who didn't hear, by the way, 5-0 vote at the very top of the meeting, confirming Commissioner Johnson on Tuesday. So at the committee of the whole. So congratulations.
Glad to have you.
All right. Good weekend, y'all. Talk to you again.
Welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.